that you are a big baseball fan. I know you're a big fan of obviously my hometown Cleveland Guardians as well. At the time of this recording today, they got smashed by the Tigers 10-1. Austin Hedges came in and pitched a little bit today. It was not a great game. They
I
lost,
just had a great outing on the mound, though.
yeah, and they did lose 3 out of 4 to Detroit. Though I did say that even though this Guardians team is struggling right now, and we all acknowledge that this team needs starting pitching. I think there's a benefit to the fact that this team does need starting pitching, but I also think the problem is the Guardians are not the only ones that need starting pitching. Everybody in the world needs pitching, whether it's starting, bullpen help. And so I don't think it's going to be for a lack of trying, Andy, but I am not confident that they're going to be able to get one of these deadline deals done.
Um, I mean, face value, you got to be happy with where the Guardians are right now in the season. Obviously, nobody expected them to be, I think, still atop the American League. I think
Correct.
they're
And
either
that's the
first or
other
second.
benefit, by the way, that even though they have been sliding, I don't know if people are paying attention, but the New York Yankees are sliding and Baltimore is right there. So we know it's a 162 game season.
The Yankees are on a historic bad run right now. I think they've lost like 16 of 20 or something in their last 20.
Yeah.
Something outrageous like that. And, if you're a Guardians fan, you have to look at what's positive, right? You have still arguably the best bullpen in the league, which is half the pitching that you're going to use in the playoffs, especially when you get into those playoff games where you've got 7 games in 2 weeks and you're playing a couple games back to back, you're traveling, your guys are tired, everybody's tired, you're running through starting pitching. The teams that really are going to have the most success are the teams that are deep, deep, deep in the bullpen. So that's one benefit that Guardians fans can look at. And another thing is our team is young and they're hungry. Aside from Jose Ramirez, who now he might be the oldest starter that we have on the field, and even I mean he's not even that old. He's what, 30 maybe. But
Yeah.
you've got a young team against one of the best players in the MLB. I think Stephen Vogt has done a great job at this point in the season of pulling guys up and sending guys down to experiment. He's a first year head coach and he's a former player. He knows what works for players. He knows what to look for in players. And I mean, what we've probably seen five to 10 guys maybe pulled up so far this year from Columbus.
God, at least, and I mean, in the pitching, you take a look at what they started the year with. Obviously, Bieber had the first 2 starts; he was tremendous. He goes down. McKenzie, there's probably something wrong with him. He needs surgery. He doesn't want to get surgery, but he's been struggling. Obviously Gavin Williams did not start the season with the team. So there's 3/5 of your rotations either gone or didn't start the year with the team.
Right. And I mean, let's talk about how Tanner Bibby has stood up and really solidified himself as almost ace material in the MLB. I mean, he has had a great season so far. He has fantastic command. He's very good at getting himself out of situations. I mean, he reminds me a little bit of Corey Kluber. He gives up that one solo shot home run, and then goes on and pitches a great 4 or 5 innings after that, and then you have the bullpen roll in behind him, and if Bibby's on the mound, you can almost guarantee the Tribe's winning. So I mean, Gavin Williams' return was not what Guardians fans hoped it would be, but it's a long season. He's got time. He just needs some time to get comfortable. I think the
And by
one-two
the way,
punch of
that second start Monday night against Detroit, he looked like the old Gavin Williams.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, you give him time to get comfortable and get into the rotation. That Bibby Williams 1-2 punch is a pretty good start to your rotation. Now, you mentioned trading, the trade deadline that's coming up in what, 19 days.
From the
They've
time of this
got
recording, I believe it's June 28th this year, so about
okay.
17 days. July
They've got to
24th.
do something. I don't think it's any secret that the Guardians need to go out and get at least one starting pitcher, but realistically, probably 2 guys.
Now,
and a
I
bat.
don't know what they're going to be able to trade for two. I think you could trade for one, and maybe that's why they signed this Boyd from Detroit. You
Hmm.
know, could he do something potentially? The interesting thing too that I find out of this team is we don't really have a ton of lefties, and we never really have, even in the Francona era. But it's been a little bit of henches this year. It's been a little bit of Tim Aaron, and Logan Allen obviously not done much. So I don't know. Do they look to add maybe another lefty arm?
Potentially, I think it's tough because I mean the guys that I've been looking at for them to go out and get the main guy is Crochet, who's on the White Sox,
Yeah.
and I don't see the White Sox trading a star pitcher within the division and probably not even within the American League. I mean, so I don't know. It's tough because you're right. There's going to be a lot of guys bidding, or a lot of teams bidding on a select group of guys come the deadline. But the one thing that the Guardians have in their back pocket is a little guy named Chase DeLauter, who's
Yeah.
sitting down in Columbus right now. Which I know Guardians fans have come to know and love DeLauter, especially after his spring training fiasco where he was just lights out playing in the bigs. But if your team is sitting here right now with a chance to make a strong playoff push, which we know the Guardians are in that position, you have the bullpen, you have the offense, you have the longevity, you have young guys. I mean, you these small market teams, your windows are not very big. You
Yes.
know, you got to hit that window, and if that means sending DeLauder to another farm system, and in return you get a guy who's a serviceable number two or three in your rotation, I think you have to do it.
By the way, Chicago's so bad right now that
So bad,
I mean, I'm not quite so sure they may want to do that deal and don't even care, depending on what they could get back.
right? Because you know how it works in Cleveland is they'll trade for a great pitcher, within 2 or 3 years he'll be gone,
Yes. And
and
they'll
that's
get every ounce of that pitcher out of him. I
yes,
mean, even you look at a guy last year like Noah Syndergaard,
right,
who they randomly acquired. By the end of the year, he was not bad, and
right.
obviously, you know, um, now has moved on. But you know what I find so interesting about this team, Andy, and I've been telling people this, we've been talking baseball, and I really on this show, even though we are more of a national show when it comes to the NFL, when it comes to the NBA, I usually stay more local with baseball because baseball has almost become a local sport.
Hmm.
Um, but the one thing that I am surprised about when it comes to this team is it's not the fact that they have five all stars and four of them are hitters. When's the last time you ever heard the Guardians having that? Hasn't been since the 90s. But it's guys like Quan and, these guys are hitting the ball for power.
Right. Is it crazy for me to make the statement that Stephen Kwan is the best pure hitter in the MLB?
No, I don't. I mean, is it crazy to say that, maybe Stephen Kwan, and again, he's been injured, so maybe you can't make him a part of that conversation, but he could theoretically be, I think, the MVP of the American League.
Right. It's but would that ever happen to Cleveland?
Probably not unless they go on another, 10
Fair.
game. I'm not saying go on the 22 game win streak, but a win streak they had earlier this year at 10 games. The other benefit I think we have, and this is what I've been trying to explain people, is that, even though Minnesota has chopped into the lead, I think the lead in the division now is 5.5 games. We're still 6, 7 games up in the loss column. And that matters when it comes post All-Star break here. And again, you'll be listening to this, we'll be on the All-Star break. But Minnesota, to even catch us in the division, if we just play 500 ball the rest of the way, they have to play almost 700 ball. I don't know if it's possible.
Right. Yeah. The Guardians have done a tremendous job at creating a lead and padding it through this first half of the season. I mean, I games like today and yesterday and 3 days ago when they lose 3 or 4 to the Tigers, it has to make you a little bit nervous as a Guardians fan, right? It makes me sit there and I'm like, man, all it takes is a week like this in the playoffs, and the entire season's done for, right? Lose to a bad team or lose to a team that you're clearly superior to. But I don't know. I feel good about this team. I think the front office is going to make some moves here in the last part of July to really stabilize our pitching staff. I think they would benefit greatly from getting another veteran bat in the lineup. Um, Somebody maybe in right field or shortstop, depending on what they're. I don't know. Bo Bichette, I know, has been a name that's been floating around, and I think if you had Bo Bichette to this lineup, uh,
Yeah, I agree.
you know, that's just crazy. The lineup would be crazy.
So, as we head into this all-star break now, as we mentioned, the Guardians, they have 5 all-stars this year, 4 of them being hitters. Stephen Kwan, David Fry, Josh Naylor, Jose Ramirez, and of course the best closer in baseball, Emmanuel Clase. Did you have any problems with anybody who wasn't named? The only one I could think of that maybe got snubbed was Jimenez at second base, but I didn't think, maybe his stick wasn't quite there, but his defense is phenomenal.
Well, the offense has not been there yet for Jimenez this season. We know what he's capable of, which it's a good thing that it. I always sit here and I think, that these guys that are perennial all stars or close to all star players are going to end the season with a decent batting average. And right now, I think Jimenez is hitting like exactly 250, and he's probably going to end the season hitting around 275, 285, which means the second half of this season, he's poised to go on a little bit of a tear with his bat. I don't think he was snubbed. I'm happy with 5 All-Star game appearances in Cleveland on the Guardians. I think every one of those 5 deserved it. I don't think I would replace anybody on the roster right now with Andres Jimenez, but he will definitely be in the conversation for Gold Glove at the end of the year because, like you said, he's one of the best fielders in the MLB.
Yeah, and with that being said, we talk about the fact the Guardians have 5 all-stars, tied for the most in the American League. And I had said that, even the brightest baseball mind in the world last year would have never picked the Arizona Diamondbacks to make the World Series.
No,
So we all know that the baseball players are a little bit of a crapshoot, but as it currently stands right now, as we watched all these teams, I said just because of their reputation, the only team that makes me nervous is the team that essentially, gave us our worst series of the year early in the year, and that's the Yankees.
yep, yep. And I think the Yankees, I think they're a different ball club come the postseason. They have a lot of star power, and stars shine under the lights. So that's a team that makes me nervous. I probably should be saying the Orioles because the Orioles have so much young talent,
Yeah, but
but
I think that we can play with Baltimore. I think we
definitely,
showed that in the last series we played them.
definitely. And then in the American League, I guess
I
just
mean,
the
Houston's
division, like,
always there. They're not as good as they were a few years ago, but they're right on Seattle's heels again when it looked like they were going to be completely out of it.
right, right.
So,
I mean, it'll just come down to it. I mean, who thought in 2016 that our tribe was going to be going to the World Series and
well,
putting up
me
seven?
right here. For some reason, I don't know. I just believed in that team. I just thought all year long, even with the injuries, the way they played. Again, to me, it's very similar to this team, though I thought that team
The
may have had a little
charisma,
bit more power. But balance, hitting, stealing bases, bunting, which is something nobody does in baseball anymore, and I don't understand why. The small things and the way Francona utilized that bullpen and really revolutionized the way teams use bullpen in the postseasons with Andrew Miller.
right? Yeah, Tito in 2016 was phenomenal. I think the tribe made the right move moving on to Stephen Vogt when they
Yes.
did. And I think his youthful sense and his experience is giving this team a lot of juice. I think Austin Hedges gives this team a lot of juice. I
Oh,
think
absolutely. I said it when they brought him back. I thought it was a very underrated signing. And here's the thing, I like Bo Naylor as a catcher as well, and we
I
know
was about to say
and we know that catchers don't hit the way that they used to. It's why for years I always defended Roberto Perez because I thought
fantastic.
he was the best defensive catcher I've ever seen in my lifetime, and that's not even a knock. His bat, would always perform in the playoffs, and so that I thought was a little bit of an underrated element. And I think if you can get edges, to be that backup catcher, Bo Naylor starting to come around, I think that's a pretty powerful catcher duo.
Bo's bat has picked up a lot these
Yes.
last couple weeks. I think he bumped his average 30 or 40 points in the last month probably. And I know there's been a lot of talk on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, about how lucky the Guardians have gotten with calls from the umpires, but a lot of that's not luck. A lot of that is Bo Naylor sitting there framing pitches, pulling pitches off the corners, doing a great job behind the plate and helping his pitchers get out of
And that's
situations.
what catchers are taught to do now.
Yep.
They're not in a crouch anymore. They're more on one knee until the pitch is about to get set to throw, so it's easier to frame.
Right. So
So,
I'm happy with our team defensively. Um, I think our outfield's great. I think Stephen Kwan is certainly the leader of that outfield, and he deserves all of the flowers he gets. He deserves his All-Star game appearance. I think, our infield, when you're running behind Jose Ramirez, you're going to be pretty good. What? Well, actually, so you mentioned All-Star game snubs. Maybe some of our bullpen guys would be some snubs, but the MLB is never going to give us 6, 7, 8 All Stars.
yeah.
That's never
Um,
happening.
so speaking of all stars, I want to ask you two questions. Number one, are you a little bit nervous like me? And would you be happy if Jose Ramirez did not do the home run derby? Because they always say you can F up your swing in the home run derby.
I I think Jose is too good to let something like that mess up his swing, especially being a switch hitter. If something's not working on one side of the plate, mentally, if he's able to just tell himself, well, left side's not working, let's move to the right side, clicks just like that. It's he has that superpower going for him. If a guy who's a right-handed batter gets in his head, I can't swing right now. I can't swing right now. Starts hitting pop flies, hitting ground balls, not making solid contact. Jose has that alternative. Let me move to the other side of the plate and see if that's working.
Okay.
Baseball is what 90% mental, right? If you can trick yourself into being a good hitter, it feels like sometimes.
I mean, it's incredible when you think about the math of it. You get on base three out of every 10 times you're home.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it is the hardest thing to do in sports is hit major league pitching. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about is the MLB All-Star game in general, and not just the MLB All-Star game, but I want to take this to, the NBA All-Star game. I don't know how much of a hockey fan you are. I know nothing about hockey, but
Nothing.
the NHL All Star game, the Pro Bowl. So I went on a rant that aired today on Brains World at the time that we are recording this. And I basically said that, in 2020, I don't know if due to COVID and all that, if anybody really truly did miss the All Star game. And when I look at these leagues, whether it's the NBA All Star game, whether it's the MLB All Star game, which again, in fairness, is the fairest MLB All Star game, you can't really mess around in baseball like you can these other leagues. But part of me is like, once they got rid of the AL versus NL component where the winner would move, home field in the World Series, it's lost its luster a little bit. And we know the MLB doesn't market its stars enough. And all of these all star, the Derby, the 3-point contest in the NBA, and all these, to me, it's really just turned into ways for a random city to get economy boost and way for the sports to make money. And to be honest with you, I don't think they're really entertaining, and I wouldn't miss it if they got rid of them because I think they're sort of pointless.
I I agree with your statement on they're pointless because they are pointless at this point. I know the NBA does some stuff with charity for the winning team, but if I have to pick which league does have the best performance for an all-star week slash weekend, I think it's the MLB. I think the MLB, I think the home run derby is the best event in all of the major sports all-star events. Um, it was fun to watch the 3-point contest this year. Dunk contest was incredibly lame.
Oh,
Um,
I've been saying it about the dunk contest, and maybe it's too hard to this Max McClung or whoever. Why are we having G League players do dunk? I don't get it. I don't understand it. You should have to be an all-star to participate in All-Star Weekend. What happened to that rule?
Definitely, definitely. We haven't seen a great dunk contest since what was it, 2016?
Well, everybody said that dunk contest was great between Aaron Gordon and Zach Levine. And I said, if you compare that to 10 years ago, it's trash. It's just
Right.
the modern standard of, oh, that's a great dunk contest. But I don't know. I just think the players have stopped caring. I think even in baseball, again, it used to be, you can't really go half-hearted in baseball, but it just used to feel like the players used to give just a little more effort to try to get that home field advantage. And I get why they got rid of it. But to me, put something on the line, give these players some incentive to go all out.
Right. And but it's so hard because these guys, especially in the NBA and well, all of the major sports leagues, they make so much money.
Yeah.
Like what could the MLB offer their players where they're like, I really want to win that? I have no idea.
Yeah, because in baseball, baseball players, even they play the most games, they make the most money. So, in the NBA, like that $1 million incentive, the guys on the end of the bench matter.
Right.
In the MLB, it's not gonna matter. So you're right. I don't really know what incentive they would make. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.